I'd like to call this regular council meeting to order. Would you all rise, please, for the invocation?
We meet to serve our community and endeavor to be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Let us be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chamber minds that think and hearts that feel, so that in our deliberations we may display imagination, wisdom, and courage, and the will to do our work for the good of all.
Thank you. And before we proceed to the roll call, I'd like to acknowledge that the meeting this evening is taking place on land which is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Mississaugas of the New Credit, and the Anishinaabe people. Madam Clerk, the roll call.
All members of council are present, Your Worship.
Thank you. This evening, I know that Regional Councillor Insinna won't be with us. I've got a few brief announcements, and the first one, I want to just briefly touch on the tragic incident that occurred in Fort Erie last Friday evening. And for whatever reason, we now know that a man jumped into the river with his young son and pursued by the child's mother. As we all know, the river is extremely treacherous at that point. It's near the coal docks at the bottom of Jarvis Street, and only proficient swimmers should even enter the water there. Understanding that something was amiss, a local resident and former town councillor, Bob Steckley, followed the couple and child into the river and was able to secure the safety of the child. Numerous first responder agencies were involved in the attempted rescue of the parents and the child, including the Niagara Regional Police Service, Buffalo Fire Department, U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Border Patrol, and our own Fort Erie Fire Department. And Chief Melanson, I want to thank you and your men for the role that they played in this situation, which was obviously difficult for all. Unfortunately, neither the man nor the mother survived the ordeal, although Bob tried heroically to revive the woman once she had been brought out of the water. The incident has been traumatic for all those involved. Our hearts go out to the little boy who has lost his parents. We extend our deepest appreciation to the first responders who conducted themselves as the caring individuals that they are, that we have learned to expect over the years. And I wanted to recognize Bob Steckley for his selfless action at a time of extreme chaos. And we will, Council will, at an appropriate date, formally recognize the hero in our midst. The second item that I wanted to refer to was something that I'm sure Councillor Insinna would have made reference to, and that is a couple of resolutions that the Niagara Regional Council passed last Thursday evening. One was relative to joining the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities, and the other to establish a Women's Advisory Committee. Both measures are designed to provide a framework and conduit for the benefit of Regional Council as it formulates policies and strives to meet its strategic objectives related to growth and prosperity. The reality is that Niagara, Ontario, Canada needs more immigrants in order to fulfill our employment needs in the future. We best accomplish that by making Niagara a welcoming place for newcomers. We do that by recognizing the value of diversity and inclusion, not only of immigrants, but of everyone in our society who is different, whether because of ethnicity, culture, skin color, sexual or gender identity, ability, religion, or beliefs. Over 70 municipalities in Canada have joined the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities. It is unfortunate that there are prejudices within our society, but that is the reality. They result in thoughtless, hurtful, and undermining conduct by some towards others. No one should suffer because they are different. Women in particular should not receive lesser compensation than men simply because they are women. No one should be denied employment because of his or her accent or appearance. We succeed as communities when we embrace differences and welcome everyone for what they can do. Both Councillor Tom Insinna and I supported the resolutions at Regional Council. While Fort Erie has made significant strides in recognizing the importance of diversity and inclusion over the years, and we have adopted many policies and taken many actions to ensure that diversity is recognized as beneficial. Many prejudices are systemic in our society and need to be addressed with the assistance of local governments. The region's resolutions are tangible recognition of the need to take action, and we welcome the opportunity to continue to work with others to be an open, welcoming, and inclusive society. And then finally, on a more upbeat note, there were two really good events that happened in Fort Erie on the weekend. Well, actually, there were a number. I was very busy all day Saturday. But Saturday morning, the first Derby Days was held in Crystal Beach on Derby Road, organized by two young women who are business people. They set up quite an array of vendors there. It was very enjoyable. You actually could have stayed there, and even if you didn't participate in the hot dog eating contest, you could have eaten all day. But that was very, very well done. The weather was excellent. And then that evening in Fort Erie, at Bridgeburg on Jarvis Street, was the street dance. And they also had a series of events starting around 3:30 in the afternoon. And you could tell that it was a good street dance because there were lots of people, and it was so loud you could hardly hear who was talking to you. But it was a good evening, and I want to congratulate the Bridgeburg BIA for holding that fantastic event. Okay. There is an addendum this evening, and that is an additional presentation and delegation. Dr. Gregory Flynn, on behalf of Fort Erie Flooding Task Force. We have an additional piece of correspondence, a proclamation for the United Way Niagara, and then we have a new business inquiry, another proclamation, World Day of Bullying Prevention. And so those will be dealt with as we go through the agenda. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Madam Clerk, I have a pecuniary interest in the closed session item A, 13A, in that the owner of the property has now consulted my law firm, and so we will be representing Mr. David with respect to any transactions with the municipality. So when it comes to that matter, which will be dealt with in closed session, Councillor Noyes, I believe you're the acting mayor. I would ask you to manage that portion of the closed session. Councillor Dubanow, that I'm asking you to take on that responsibility. And that will be dealt with first in closed session. Then when you're done with that, I can be summoned and I'll participate in the second part. If there are no other declarations of pecuniary interest, there is one public information open house upcoming, and that is with respect to the installation of wireless telecommunications facilities by Canadian Niagara Power at their offices, 1130 Bertie Street, and that meeting will take place on September the 24th, which is tomorrow at 5 p.m. Sorry, the meeting takes place here, the Town Hall Atrium. CNP is located on Bertie Street. September 24th, 5 p.m. Regional Councillor is not here, so that then takes us to presentations and delegations, and our first delegation is Elaine Edmiston, Coffee Break Committee member, Alzheimer's Society. Good evening.
Mayor Redekop, members of council, town staff, and members of the public. My name is Elaine Edmiston, and I am a member of the Coffee Break Committee of Alzheimer's Society. Thank you for letting me come here and talk to you. Coffee Break campaign is in its 24th year, and this year's Coffee Break was kicked off on Friday, September 20th at the Niagara Regional Headquarters by the Honorary Chair, Jim Bradley. Then on September 21st, it was World Alzheimer's Day. Popular attractions across the country participated in the Go Blue for Alz, and in Niagara, the Falls, the Peace Bridge, Brock Tower, and Welland Canal Bridge 13 were illuminated in blue to raise awareness of Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia. Dementia doesn't discriminate. It can affect anyone, regardless of background, education, lifestyle, or status. It is not a normal part of aging. It's one of the fastest growing diseases of our time, but still there is no cure or effective treatments. Dementia is also a health condition with important social implications that impact our communities. There is often a lack of awareness and understanding of dementia, resulting in stigmatization and barriers to both diagnosis and care. In the Niagara region, there are over 10,000 people, that's 2.2% of our population, who are experiencing progressive dementia, and the number of cases continues to grow. Last year, we saw 2,056 new referrals to our society, and we educated more than 12,500 Niagara residents and frontline staff. Our service provision includes all individuals impacted by the diagnosis, spouses, families, children, and friends who are also need education and support to help the lifestyle of their family members, which has changed quite dramatically. We've had wonderful success with our many programs and services offered in Fort Erie, such as brainwave cafes, caregiver support groups, friendly visiting, aging and dementia simulations, Next Steps Care Essentials, telecare, friendly visiting, and numerous other educational series. Our family support counselors do in-house visits in Fort Erie and every municipality in the Niagara region. In order to support the large variety of these programs that are provided with no charge to individuals or families, our society must raise over $500,000, $500,000 each year. And Coffee Break is one of our biggest fundraisers. Hosting a coffee break is easy and provides a social opportunity, and those in the town will be experiencing one tomorrow. Our society supplies each host with a free kit, while hosts supply the people and the place. The kit includes a coffee for the first pot, supplied locally by Barclay and Todd's. Signage and literature are included, as well as donation box for each event and some promotional items for our sponsors: Giant Tiger St. Catharines locations, J&L Flooring, and Seniors on the Move. Coffee breaks run from September through to December, so you can choose any event date you would like. No coffee break is too small or too large, and each one truly makes a difference. Thanks to this council and over 100 hosts, including Garrison Place, Gilmore Lodge, and Maple Park Lodge, to name a few, we raised close to $60,000 last year. Our goal this year is $75,000. Organizing or taking part in a coffee break in your community not only raises much needed funds, but it raises awareness and encourages discussions about Alzheimer's. Anyone can register for a free coffee bake kit, but I have a few extras here if anyone would like to create a coffee break on their own. But in the meantime, Mayor Redekop, I'd like you to have this kit, because you folks are going to be doing a coffee break tomorrow, and you're also doing a dress down day on October 31st. Way to go, folks.
We usually call October 31st Halloween.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Edmiston, and this is a wonderful initiative that you're involved in. Many of us have been touched by Alzheimer's. either in our families or people that we know. So we're very much appreciative of the continuous work that the Alzheimer's Society does. Thank you. That takes us then to Deneen Tesmer, who's going to provide us with an update regarding our communications efforts. Good evening.
Good evening. Mayor Redekop, members of council, thank you for giving me the opportunity to provide you with an update for our communications as well as some of our next steps. Oh, sorry. All good communications start with good communications objectives. The town has 3 objectives that they follow for communications. The first being to develop a consistent Fort Erie brand and image, followed by the implementation of a strategic hybrid approach utilizing both traditional and digital communications. And the third, to promote a communications culture in all town initiatives, basically trying to keep communications top of mind for all town staff. Similar to the objectives, good communications has a good communications plan. Our communications plan starts with a solid foundation. What we do is we try to ensure that we have an improved communications landscape, followed by developing internal communications processes and leveraging community partners. This is a table that outlines our current marketing communications landscape. Pre-2016, that's basically before you hired a dedicated communications person, you typically use advertising solely with a newspaper, media releases, social media, outdoor signage, direct mail, inserts, and the website. Since coming on board, we've introduced a couple more communications channels that we use, such as the community guide, the community event calendar, the e-newsletter and e-blast, social media marketing, poster distribution, and internal communications. I would now like to take the opportunity to provide you with an evaluation of some of the communications channels that we did introduce during 2016 and 2018, the first being the community guide. The community guide was launched in February 2017. What it is a transformation of what was Discover Fort Erie that was developed by Post Media at the time and what it is now. The community guide is distributed twice a year in order to align with seasonal programming. It includes information about local services, programs, events, and organizations. The event and directory information is collected with the assistance of over 170 organizations. And we work with some community partners to provide recreation and leisure programming information, such as the Boys and Girls Club and the Fort Erie Arts Council, to name a few. We recently sent out a survey to get an idea of the value of the transformed communications guide, and we found that 79% of the respondents found the guide provided them with a better understanding of town operations. 73 found that they were able to learn more about a local organization or program. 68 respondents have attended at least one event that they found listed in the guide, and 80% look forward to receiving their guide in the mail. We also reached out to our event partners. We provided them with a survey as well, and 50% of the respondents have noticed an increase in their awareness of their organization and the events that they offer. 40% have seen an increase in event attendance. 77% believe that the guide is a valuable resource, and 80% would like to continue promoting their events in the guide. Alongside the community guide is the event calendar. It was developed because we needed a place for event organizers to submit their events. And since we've developed the online calendar, we have received over 1,000 events submitted since it was launched in 2017. It serves 2 purposes. The first is to promote events online, which feeds into the community guide, and it also electronically streamlines event licensing and approval processes. We have our newsletter next. The newsletter was launched in October 2016. Since it's launched, we published 29 newsletters. The average newsletter for a government, average open rate for a government newsletter is 27%. We're achieving a 60% average open rate. And we're also seeing a 25% increase year over year in subscribers. Social media presence is really important. The Ontario municipalities, for the most part, favor Facebook, followed by Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Fort Erie is actively engaged in 3 of the 5. Fort Erie is also 4th ranked in the region for followers on Facebook and Twitter. It's one of our primary communications channels, and it is essential for emergency situations. Here's an overview of our marketing communications landscape and where we look to continue for 2020 and 2022. By adding social media, being Instagram, we actually just recently launched that, and we will be using our Instagram account to further our social media marketing. Another area we'd like to explore more is using targeted advertising based on location and behavior. So the benefits of something like this is being able to develop a virtual fence around particular communities or neighborhoods in Fort Erie, targeting them in case we have an upcoming public meeting that we'd like to have increased engagement or want to target that audience specifically. We're also working towards developing a new website in order to make sure that we are AODA compliant. We must be level 2 WAG by 2022, so communications is currently working with digital services. Our next steps for communications is to increase our newsletter presence and subscribers. We also want to continue updating our guide regularly to keep the information fresh and timely. Develop an advertising strategy that balances costs with effective advertising, improve overall social media presence, develop and launch the new website, remove barriers to enable town staff to contribute to town social assets, and also work with the Niagara Region and neighboring municipalities to find shared service opportunities. And that is everything.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tesmer. And this is just part of the work that you do. We know that you do all kinds of other work, including getting out to media releases and staying on top of what we're doing here, and periodically assisting us in making sure that we craft a good public relations policy. Any questions? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Ms. Tesmer. Ms. Tesmer, you may have said it, and I may have missed it. If you go down a few slides, you were talking about respondents, but it was based on percentages, like 50% of the respondents, 70% of the, but what was how many people responded?
For the general survey, we had 114 respondents, and for the event partners, we had 29 out of 72 that we reached out to.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions by any members of council? Thank you very much, Ms. Tesmer. You did look a little nervous.
I know, it was awful. I could hear my own voice.
You'll be an expert when you come back. That then takes us to the third delegation this evening. That's Dr. Gregory Flynn. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for allowing us to present to you. We have a very keen interest in the local flooding in the Point Dubanow area, and we met with town officials on Friday and reviewed with them the report from the Infrastructure Services Committee that was being submitted to council with the approval of committee and council. We have some concerns about that, and we weren't able to make any representation to the committee, perhaps our own ignorance as to how to make those representations. But we're very grateful for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. The report has many very important recommendations, but many of them are future-looking and not looking at what's happened in the recent past. In particular, what's happened this summer as we have endeavored to pump some of the water from the flooded Point Dubanow drain. Now, because we had just a few short days, we weren't able to put a presentation together to put up on the screen. But is it possible to distribute? Could I just do that?
Of course.
Thanks very much.
Maybe, I don't know, is Janine still here? No. We'll do it this way.
If you look at the photographs, just briefly, I just want to make the point that in the spring, we all woke up and realized that there was a lot more water on the ground than we had appreciated. And these photographs kind of give you an indication of what we found in our area. Standing water on many of the properties, front and backyards. Many property owners are losing mature trees that normally, stand swamp water conditions. I know personally I've lost a large mature maple, which is a water-resistant tree. It's hard to appreciate on the backside where you just see a lot of trees because the foliage is so great. But on the top picture, you'll see that there's a lot of kind of background there, and that's all water. And if you walk back from Wildwood or Bay Woods, you can only go about 200 feet, and you're within 700 or 500, 600 feet of the center of the drain. And you can't go any further because the water's that high. So for a distance, the length of the drain, which is probably about 2 miles or 10,000 feet, 1,000 feet wide, the water is over the edge of the drain. And for every foot of water there's about 60 million gallons of water. Now, I've had a lot of experience with presentations and helping people to understand what's happening. And I'm asking you as a council to do something which probably very few people have come in my sort of position and asked you to do, because I'm going to ask you to reconsider part of the committee's recommendation, and that part is the part about pumping that portion of the Point Avenue drain, which is allowing us to decrease that volume of water. I have 3 reasons why I want you to do that. The first reason is our experience as people who are living there. When the pump started to work at the drain and started to pump the water out from behind the cofferdam into the lake, we didn't expect it to change anytime soon. But within a month, all of us who were experiencing pressure from the back, pressure from the west, pressure from that expanding lake, were able to see the back of our properties. And if you can imagine, that provided us with quite a bit of comfort. If you look at the numbers, as I just ran through with you, it's roughly 10,000 feet, 1,000 feet wide, a foot deep. We were told by the IS committee that the drop in the water was 24 centimeters. Because I'm Canadian, I understand how confusing it can be with the metric and the imperial system. If you say 24 centimeters quickly, it doesn't sound like very much. But 24 centimeters is almost a foot. It's almost 10 inches. And interestingly enough, the IS people have provided us with the information that they believe they've pumped 82 million gallons out of that water body. And in order of magnitude, that's not very far off the 61 million gallons I just told you about that's locked in up there. So I can't tell you what to do, and I have no power to get you to do the right thing, but I do know that you have the power to reconsider. And I'm asking you to reconsider the recommendation that you stop that pump. I think there's more than one way to do that, but that is the first step. And I don't think it's really appropriate unless you ask me what the next step would be, but nevertheless, I've never been constrained by being appropriate before. I'm going to tell you that I think you either have to do one of two things. You have to amend the recommendation from the committee, or perhaps, I'm not sure which set of rules of order you operate under, table it or put over a decision until your next meeting, until you have some more information. But given what I heard at the meeting, given what my personal experience is, given what my knowledge is of the volume of water that's back there and what has been pumped, and I will say some understanding of what the status is of the dam that's there and the efforts that have to be made, I'm asking you, one of you, to make a motion to reconsider and collectively for you to try to set this aside so that we have a little more time to understand what the risks and benefits are to the people who are living there. I can tell you that in my own case, I did not see my basement dry out until the pump had been operating for 3 weeks. I'm very happy to answer any questions. I'm very respectful, and I appreciate everything that council has done for us in recent months. We're a small and fairly contained constituency.
Thank you very much, Dr. Flynn. You had mentioned that there were 3 reasons, and the first one had to do with the experience of the people living in the area.
The volume of water that's back there, and the information from the IS department that there's a drop of 24 centimeters, which, you know, was characterized as negligible. And I understand how that happens in the cut and thrust of discussion, but I just want to say that if, in fact, we've dropped the level back there by 24 centimeters, that makes sense to me given my lived experience of the water receding. And as far as negligible goes, I am a scientist, and, you know, we normally have some rules around negligible, significant. And I would just ask, if the lake level went up by 24 centimeters tomorrow, and it was in the newspaper, would you consider that negligible? I don't think so. That fits with the amount of pumping that's been done and the experience of relief that residents are experiencing now.
Thank you very much. I don't want to cut you off. Was there something further that you wanted to say? And then I'll ask councillors if they have any questions.
My view of it is that this really, we're here with a singular, there are many, many things that I would like to say and share, but no, I would rather have the opportunity to answer questions from council.
Thank you. So just on the procedure, the report was passed last week. The recommendations are correct. Dr. Flynn would have to be reconsidered. That would come up under new business if there's any councillor that wishes to move that. It would have to be seconded. We would waive the rules we'd have to waive the rules to permit that this evening. So there's a process, and it would be waive the procedural rules to allow a motion to reconsider and then a vote on the reconsideration. That would happen under the new business portion of the agenda if it's going to happen. And that is going to take place relatively soon because it's after the consent agenda is dealt with, which usually is quite quickly. So before you go, I'll stop talking. Are there any members of council that have any questions at this point? Councillor Noyes?
Thank you, Mayor Redekop, to you, Mr. Flynn. Mr. Flynn, thank you for your delegation, and I understand that it's very important to you and the other residents in the area. And you've quoted the 24 centimeters, and I'm looking at the report that we received from the town. And what I understand, and correct me, that the lake level went down 21, and the pumped area went down, like, I guess 24. So the difference was really only 4 centimeters. It wasn't the 24. Are you comparing?
I can tell. I would ask your staff to answer that question. What I can say is from direct observation that the level in the upstream is about 24 centimeters lower than the level in the lake.
Okay, thank you. I will ask that question.
Thanks.
Any other members of council? Councillor Butler?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Dr. Flynn. I have a few questions for you. First of all, was this an anomaly year, or is this something that happens on a continual basis?
This has been building for the last 3 years. And people who are on the edges of this inland lake have been coming to the town to ask for help for about 3 years.
Know that,
It is cyclical, Councillor Butler?
right, and I do know that, that it's under the purview of the city of Port Colborne right now to work with us on this issue, but I'll discuss that later. The other question that I have is, are the residents primarily seasonal or are they year-round?
It's a mix.
What would the split be, do you know?
I bet it's 70-30, 70 seasonal, 30 year-round. That's probably a significant, not negligible change from what used to probably be about 75-25 maybe.
Okay, and when you say it's a 70-30 split, do you know roughly the number of residents that live there that are affected by this?
I'm going to say it's probably in the region of 300.
So that's a significant amount of numbers. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Any other councillors? Councillor Lubberts?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. I just wanted to get back to a question from Councillor Noyes and getting back to the report. And when I read the report, it appeared to me that there was, staff was, while they were pumping, they were monitoring, and that they had done some other testing to see what was happening with the water as they were pumping. And it was my understanding that the lake levels went down as the water levels in your areas were going down. And that's why they said that the pumping was negligible. But also, there was a report from some years ago that explained that the way that the dunes work in Point Avenue is the lake levels, when the lake levels rise, the dune allows the lake to permeate through the sand and then come up and find its same level as the lake. So I guess my question is, is it your feeling that the drain isn't working properly and that we can stop this water from rising in the lake and then ending up in the dune area as well?
Thank you for your question, Councillor. I'll be very honest with you that I believe that the lake level is a major determinant of flooding in our area. But what I also believe is that the infrastructure that we have and we have not adequately maintained is there for those times. So that when we go through a long period of time where the lake has free access to that wetland and floods it and saturates it, then we need ways to remove that water. Surface drainage, ditching, and maintenance of the drain, allowing the drain to flow freely, that's part of it. But I think where the opportunity was missed in previous years was recognizing that when the water gets up to the level of the lake, when the lake is high, that the drain has to be pumped and that it needs a lift pump at the place where we're lifting water over now. So what I'm saying is I think what we're seeing is that pumping does make a difference and that it needs to be part of the long-term solution for times when the water is high.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think I think that's where the problem lies, is when the lake levels are high and the water is permeating and percolating through the sand and seeking its level back in the wooded area and around the drain. When you pump that water, you're going to be pumping it into a high lake, which is just in turn going to permeate through the dune again. So I guess my question is, I will ask staff, if we are going to continue to pump, where are we going to pump this water to?
So, Councillor, I would just give you a brief rebuttal. If we pumped 82 million gallons, where did it go?
From my understanding, it went into the lake and then it permeated again through the dune and through the sand and back to its level. And water
But
will
not
find
at-
its own level.
Surely not at the same rate.
Well, okay, first of all.
I don't know. We're not gonna debate
Neither
it.
of you are
Sure.
scientists, neither of you is
I
engineers.
will speak with staff and see if we can come up with something and consider.
Just if I could just have one last rejoinder.
Of course.
This is not a problem that has nor does it have a single cause. But when we're in the situation that we're in, where the lake levels are high, we are very dependent on a robust infrastructure system to relieve that pressure. And we know that an engineering study has been tendered and agreed to by Port Colborne, but it's a couple of years away. And I'm just saying, I think a lot of damage could be done in a couple of years, and you might want to consider continuing to do the pumping. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Dr. Flynn, before you go, this one table that was contained in the report that we dealt with last week shows the levels of the lake and the levels of the drain. And it's inescapable that as the lake goes down, the level of the drain goes down. Your position would be that it's gone down significantly because of the pumping. One can look at this and see that they're very close. And I'm not an engineer, as you know. There is some understanding about water percolating up from underneath. So my question is, as part of the long-term solutions, what are the individuals in the neighborhood contemplating in terms of grade elevation changes? Because it seems to me that that's part of the long-term solution. I mentioned this the other day at the meeting. Is that something that's under discussion in consideration by the group?
Well, you know, that's kind of every man for himself, isn't it, Mayor? I mean,
Not, it would be pursuant to some type of plan that would involve the whole area.
but we haven't been involved in any of that planning. We'd love to be, and we'd welcome that opportunity. As I said in our infrastructure meeting, when we're contemplating changes to the drainage around the Wildwood area in particular, because I'm quite close to it, come and talk to us. If the local knowledge is better than any college.
Well, so just so I'm clear on this, because I've been involved in this, in terms of grade elevations or some type of alteration that would assist, I mean, this is a wetland area. We know that there's water there. Is this something that the members of your committee or the residents are contemplating?
Yes, Mayor, and as you probably recall from the meeting, one of the things that we asked about was could we have some help from the town in coordinating that kind of activity with the Niagara Provincial Conservation Authority? Because I think there are people who do wish to change the grade of their homes, but if you do that in an uncoordinated way, one person's solution can be another person's problem.
Yep, I understand that, and I have indicated publicly as well as in our meetings that the town is prepared to act as a facilitator with the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, and it seems to me that you're right, this needs to be a solution that's neighborhood-wide, and all the people that are affected by this would need to be prepared to participate, for sure.
Now, Mayor, you were saying you weren't a scientist.
I'm not
You said I wasn't.
just an old guy that.
But I am a scientist.
There you go.
Okay, and so what I say, and then my last part of this plea is, this has been characterized, pumping out there has been characterized as a test. Sort of like an experiment. And all I would tell you is that if you want to do an experiment, you have to get the assumptions all set up ahead, and you have to know what your endpoints are. And I suggest that you take a month or a month and a half, keep pumping, and take care of those details. What are the endpoints? How are you going to know whether it's really going to work? Because right now we're just in a battle of opinions. And my opinion is that 24 centimeters is not negligible.
Well, and you're a scientist.
I am.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So we don't usually do that here. This isn't a church, but we don't usually clap. However, we've heard Dr. Flynn and the eloquent delivery of his message. So we're finished with delegations. That takes us to the consent agenda. Would anyone like any of the items removed from the consent agenda? Councillor Butler?
Thank you, Your Worship. If we could remove 2A.
To be dealt with separately?
Yes, please.
For sure. Is there anyone else who would like anything else removed? Then, Councillor Lubberts, you have the resolution to move the consent agenda?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott. That council approves the consent agenda as recommended, save and except for item 2A.
Are there any questions or comments? Mr. Walsh, I noticed in the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee minutes, which is item 3B, on page 4, there's a reference to the buses. They all four of them arrive at the bus stop at the same time, and there's some concern about how that blocks the road. I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that, but would you be able to look into that?
I know the issue you speak of, Mr. Mayor. It's not the most ideal, but there's not much we can do right now without significant infrastructure alterations out there.
Is that about to become more exacerbated by the additional bus?
That new bus will be staggered by half an hour, so it will not be there at the same time. So the answer is no.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, I'll call the question on the consent agenda items. All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Lubberts, would you move item 2A then of the consent agenda, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that council approve the meetings of August 26th.
2A, that would be the
2A.
correspondence from City of St. Catharines.
Correspondence, yeah, I'm sorry. Received City of St. Catharines correspondence.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak to that? Councillor Butler?
Thank you, Your Worship. As many of our councillors know, that I sit on the Affordable Housing Committee, and we too are experiencing long waiting lists and extreme low vacancy rates for apartments. And transitional housing is very difficult for our youth and our elderly who are looking to either upgrade or downgrade or just get a starter home. So I particularly am interested in this correspondence and citing the fact that Vancouver and Calgary have, or British Columbia and Vancouver in particular, have implemented this higher taxation for vacant housing is interesting to me. But I think I'd like to go a little further and say that we receive and refer to affordable housing for the City of St. Catharines to the Niagara Region.
Thank you. Is there someone who would like to amend that or second that? Councillor Dubanow? Any further discussion on that? So rather than just receive, it would be receive and refer to the Affordable Housing Committee. Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I actually have been very interested in this particular topic for quite some time. And when it was originally brought up in St. Catharines, I believe it was Councillor Miller who moved it. I actually reached out to him and had a bit of a discussion about the practicalities and how we can make it work. And I did even have a discussion with Mr. Brady here at Town Hall. I personally think that this is a good idea. I mean, it's clear that we have struggles with affordability, and some of that is due to the speculation in the market and vacancies. And I'm not an economist. I have a vague idea, as we all do, and we see what's happening in our community, and we have ideas of where the solutions come from. My only concern with some of the challenges we would have specific here in Fort Erie that might not necessarily apply to other locations within the region or even the province for that matter, is just how this would affect seasonal residences and how would we determine whether the tax applies to a seasonal residence. Does it apply anyway? Do we not apply it? That's my only concern. And with the discussions that I had with Mr. Brady, that was a concern he had as well. Not that the idea wasn't good, but just the logistics of how we implement it. Now, having said that, I am more than happy to refer this to the region, to the Affordable Housing Committee, to see if there is a way we can nail this down, because I think it would help. And I certainly do hope that we can nail out and deal with some of these details and work on this issue that is affecting so many people in our community, and it's something I hear about all the time. And I appreciate Councillor Miller up in St. Catharines bringing this up, and I'm glad we're having this discussion.
Anyone else wish to comment? So for clarity, instead of receive, it's to receive and refer to the Affordable Housing Committee. All those in favor? None opposed, that's carried. That then takes us to new business, and Madam Clerk, we have a resolution with respect to an appointment to the Niagara Region's Greater Niagara Circle Route Committee, and do we have a volunteer? Would like to reveal the name of the volunteer.
Be Councillor Dubanow.
So is there anyone else on council that's interested? If not, then Councillor Zanko, you have the resolution. Perhaps you'd be good enough to insert Councillor Dubanow's name, and he shouldn't be seconding that.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Noyes, that Council appoints Councillor Dubanow as a municipal representation to the Niagara Region's Greater Niagara Circle Route Committee for the period ending November 14th, 2022.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Dodged another bullet, Councillor Noyes. The next item, which was on our addendum, relates to the resolution regarding World Bullying Prevention Day, and Councillor Butler, you have that resolution.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that Council proclaims October 7th, 2019 as Blue Up Monday in recognition of World Bullying Prevention Day.
Are there any questions or comments about that? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. So that takes us to other items of new business. Councillor Butler?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think listening to the good doctor, I'd like to waive the procedural rules to deal with the Point Abano issue.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Doesn't look like we have a seconder, Councillor Butler. No, that's fair enough. So just for the members here, the first step, which was to move to waive the rules to present a motion to reconsider, didn't get a seconder, so the process stops there. It doesn't end the dialogue between your group and the municipality. But I'm just informing you so that you're aware that we've now dealt with that. Are there any other items of new business? I just wanted to ask Mr. Walsh with respect to the stormwater management ponds and the maintenance schedule. Some of these ponds are becoming obvious parts of the neighborhoods in which they're now located. They've got paved paths around them, and they're actually becoming a facility for recreation and almost like a park. I know they're not parks, but they're similar. Is there been any consideration given, or is this something that could be raised during the next year's 2020 budget deliberations about the maintenance schedule and how we could deal with integrating those more, I suppose, into the neighborhoods?
Our current maintenance schedule on all of our ponds is mowing them about once every 3 weeks or so. If council wishes a higher level of service, staff can take a look at ponds that would be appropriate to provide that higher level of service. For instance, the Bryant Street pond doesn't have a path around it, tight fence, it's not appropriate. But the pond out at Ridgeway by the lake development may be more suitable, more wide open, more accessible. There is a path going around it. So if it's council's wish that that we provide a higher level of service, we can bring a supplemental a request into the operating budget for deliberation. You can see what the costs are and the opportunities for improvement and make a decision at that time.
When is the next Infrastructure Services Business Subcommittee? Is that Wednesday? Perhaps that's an issue that can be discussed there. Thanks very much, Mr. Walsh. I did have one other comment with respect to new business inquiries. I'll direct this to the CAO. At one point, we were receiving in writing responses to inquiries raised by members of council, and that hasn't been happening. And so looking at the minutes of the last couple of meetings that council has had, there have been some inquiries raised. Some of the questions have been dealt with during the meetings, but some of them have not. So I wonder if we could get back to a process whereby we make note of inquiries that haven't been responded to at the meeting where they're raised so that we can get a written response.
Yeah, you raise a very good point. We did that at one time. We called them pink slips, where there was a request for information. We would bring back a pink slip with information, read it for the public to hear what the response was. I think we've got into a habit now of responding to councillors with emails with the information, but the public doesn't hear that. So it's a very good point. I think we need to get back into that and provide you with a formal response that could be read out to the public.
Okay, I'll leave that to you and the clerk to follow up on.
Okay.
Are there any other items of new business or inquiries? Councillor Noyes?
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. Actually, it goes on yours. I wasn't going to, you reminded me. You were talking about the stormwater management ponds, and I know many, many moons ago when we first were doing stormwater management ponds, I brought up particularly in Stevensville, that it would have been a good opportunity to actually make the stormwater management pond part of the community as opposed to fencing it. And at that point, that was not the way to go. But I'm very happy to see that a lot of the stormwater management ponds now are actually part of the community with a path around. I know there's a nice one going in Black Creek. And I'm just wondering, some of the stormwater ponds that are now fenced, because this was not the way to do it, many years ago, if any of them would be appropriate to probably kind of like revitalize and make it part of the community as opposed to fencing, could that be part of the what you're looking at too?
Well, that would be something that I think can also be discussed at, is it Wednesday? Wednesday's Infrastructure Services Business Subcommittee meeting, and of course it's all about whether it's feasible, depending on the location, and how much money we want to allocate in terms of the budget. But you're right, the more recent ponds, the one on Crystal Beach on Schooley Road, the one on Albany, those all have walking paths, and for all intents and purposes, they're features of the development in my view. So the answer is yes, we could raise that.
Well, I guess I'm happy to hear that. I think I was just too far ahead of my time several years ago when I thought that's the way it should be.
Story of your life, Councillor Noyes. and I've lived a fair part of your life with you. Are there any other inquiries or new business? Councillor Lubberts.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Just speaking of the stormwater management ponds, I had some conversation with Mr. Walsh a few months ago about the one at Ridgeway by the lake. And it was brought to my attention that that stormwater management pond is still under the maintenance of the developer, and that there was supposed to be some type of assumption bylaw process taking place with that, and that would be moving forward. And I'm just wondering if anything has moved forward with that, because I get a lot of complaints from the people in Ridgeway by the lake, but we don't do the service.
Right. You know the status of that, Ms. Dolch or Mr. Walsh?
At this time, no, I don't. I'd have to look into that and get back to Councillor Lubberts. I can provide him an email once I find
No,
out
we're
tomorrow.
going to follow the process.
Oh,
You can,
inquiry pink
send it
sheet.
to the,
Just talked about.
to Mr. Cookett, and he
Councillor
can
Cookett,
bring
I
it
can
to a
see
meeting.
I could see in the back of my head you were jumping up and down, waving to get Ms. Dolch's attention. So you can provide an email, but we do want to make sure that at the next regular council meeting, there's a reference so that people who follow these matters will know that there was a response. Anything further, Councillor Lubberts?
Oh, thank you.
Anyone else? There are no motions. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I want to give notice of motion regarding the Port Colborne Quarry and the aquifer that runs under Fort Erie.
That would be returnable at October's regular council meeting?
Yes, it will, Your Worship.
Are there any others? Then, going into closed session, Councillor Noyes, you have a resolution to move into closed session?
Yes, Mayor Redekop, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dubanow. The council does now go into closed session at 7:03 PM to discuss the following. A, pursuant to Section 239(2)(c) of the Municipal Act 2001, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, RE, amalgamation of fire stations 4 and 6, and B, pursuant to Section 239(2)(b) of the Municipal Act 2001, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, RE, performance evaluation.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Unopposed, that is carried. And Councillor Dubanow, since I had a conflict on the first item in closed session, I'll hand the chair to you to deal with that matter.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And I believe, Councillor Zanko, you have a resolution.
Yes, thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Butler, that council does rise and proceed, and staff proceed as directed. At 7:10, but we were still in closed session after this, so. Oh.
Madam Clerk, can you clarify the timing of the resolution here for council?
We are rising from closed session at 7:32 on both matters.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
So moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Butler, that council does now rise and reconvene from closed session at 7:32 p.m. with respect to the following items: amalgamation of Fire Station 4 and 6, that staff should proceed as directed.
Any questions? All those in favor? And that is carried, and I will return the chair to his worship.
Sorry, thank you very much, Councillor Dubanow. So that was rising with the report. And the next resolution, Councillor Butler, you have relative to the other closed session matter?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Zanko that council does now rise and reconvene from closed session at 7:32 p.m. with respect to the following items. The staff rise, or that we rise without report.
Regarding the performance evaluation.
Regarding the performance evaluation, thank you.
Okay, so the resolution is before us that council rise without report. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. That then takes us to consideration of bylaws. Are there any bylaws that anyone wishes removed from the package? I would like to deal with bylaw 127 for 2019 separately. Councillor Noyes, you have the resolution to, sorry, Councillor McDermott, you have the resolution for first and second reading of the package. Would you proceed unless there's any other reports or bylaws? Yes? Sure.
Could we have bylaw number 128/2019 dealt with separately?
Yep. We'll say, okay, so Councillor McDermott, bylaws 127 and 128 will be dealt with separately. So could you read the amended package, bylaw package, first and second reading, please?
Yes, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Butler, that the bylaw package containing 129-2019 to authorize entry into a grant funding agreement for position recruitment with Dr. Vincenzo Cecchini, 130-2019 to amend bylaw number 37-2016 to adopt a street lighting policy, delegation of authority, 131-2019 to amend traffic bylaw number 2089, installation of new yield sign on Jeanette Street at Russell, 132-2019 to exempt certain lots in Plan 59M 438 from part lot control, Block 55, Parts 1 to 4, 59R-16505-4123, 4127, 4131, and 4135 Village Creek Drive, Park Lane Home Builders, Ed Jensen, is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. So the bylaw package as amended is on the floor for questions or comments. If there are none, Councillor Lubberts, will you proceed with third and final reading for the amended bylaw package, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott. That bylaw number 129, 2019, 130-2019 131-2019, and 132-2019 are given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. So Councillor McDermott, that takes us back to bylaw number 127, first and second reading.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Butler, that 127, that the bylaw package containing 127-2019 to amend zoning bylaw number 129-90, 4130 Erie Road, Great Terrace, agent Kimberly Alvarez, owner.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. That bylaw is on the floor for questions or comments. I have a question with respect to the accessibility component of this. Mr. Brady, is the patio itself going to be constructed with accessibility requirements in mind? Sorry, Ms. Dolch.
Your worship, yes. I did speak with the chief building official earlier today with regard to this specifically, and any new construction will be required to be accessible.
And so when I raised this matter about the washrooms during the public meeting and the report with respect to this, I believe I was advised that the washrooms, although they're going to be renovated, don't need to be made accessible because they're in an existing restaurant. Is that the case?
That is correct, your worship.
And insofar as the bylaw is being amended to accommodate a request by the property owner to do something that the current zoning does not permit, would there have been latitude to include as a requirement that the washrooms be made accessible?
It could have been considered by council. In terms of the building code requirements, no. Under the Ontario Building Code, you cannot request that they be made accessible, but through the zoning process, council may have been able to look at that as a condition, but we would have had to inform the owners of that.
Right, and so that would have been similar to the restriction with respect to, although this bylaw will permit entertainment or amusement within 22 meters, there are some restrictions with respect to sound and hours.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Any other Councillor Dubanow?
Yes, I'd just like to request a recorded vote.
Sure. So that takes us to third and final reading of the bylaw 127. Councillor Lubberts.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that bylaw number 127-2019 is given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Madam Clerk, a recorded vote has been requested.
Yes, your worship. Councillor Lubberts?
Yes.
Councillor McDermott?
Yes.
Councillor Butler?
Yes?
Councillor Zanko?
Yes.
Pardon? Councillor Dubanow?
Yes.
Councillor Noyes?
No.
Mayor Redekop?
No.
Your worship, the vote carries.
Thank you. Councillor McDermott, if we could then proceed with bylaw 128, first and second reading.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Butler, that the bylaw package containing 128-2019 to authorize the execution of a site plan agreement with 255-2078 Ontario Limited, Zuhu Huang, 2043 Garrison Road, Fort Erie.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. That bylaw is on the floor for questions or comments. I'm sorry, Councillor Butler. Questions or comments?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank
proceed.
you. I just want to make sure that all of the all of the requirements that we had put forth at our last meeting are going to be executed with this bylaw.
Ms. Dolch?
Through you to the councillor. Yes, both items were added. I have two conditions: that the owner shall provide a detailed HVAC drawings as part of the building permit application, demonstrating how air exhausted from the proposed building will be treated to reduce odor associated with the cultivation of marijuana. And then secondly, the owner shall conduct a groundwater monitoring in the vicinity of the proposed development on a quarterly basis and provide reports of the groundwater testing to planning and development services staff on a quarterly basis.
Councillor Butler?
Thank you. And one further question. I noticed that they have a year to be able to comply. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what the bylaw says. Any other questions, Councillor? Yes, Councillor Zanko.
I thank you, Your Worship. Just through you to Ms. Dolch, and I know we appreciate the fact that the property owners are going through the necessary channels, but is there not any concern about the close proximity to the high school of this site?
Ms. Dolch?
Through you to the councillor, the federal government hasn't given us any ability to regulate the setbacks in proximity to schools or anything like that at this point. We do have our setbacks that we've established prior to the federal government permitting or legalizing marijuana. So those are still in place, the 70 meters from a sensitive land use, including a school. But unfortunately, at this point in time, we cannot bring forth any further zoning regulations on that.
Thank you.
And this is an indoor operation? Yeah. Okay. Councillor Lubberts, third and final reading, please, for bylaw 128?
128, right?
128.
Yeah. Moved by myself, second by Councillor McDermott, that bylaw number 128-2019 is given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Are there any further questions or comments? Ms. Dolch, when that site plan agreement is presented, could you just have somebody mark, perhaps with the Post-it notes, those specific provisions that council has requested be included, that you've referred to?
Through you, yes, I can.
So when I sign it, I can just take a look at it. I don't doubt what you're telling us. I suppose as part of the due diligence, I have a responsibility to do that. Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions or comments, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. That then takes us to Councillor Butler, the first and second reading of the confirmatory bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that bylaw number 133-2019 to confirm the actions of council at its council and committee meeting held on September 9th, 2019, council and committee meeting held on September 16th, 2019, and council meeting held on September 23rd, 2019 is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? That is carried. Councillor Noyes, you have the next resolution, third and final reading.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dubanow that bylaw number 133-2019 is given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed? That is carried. That takes us to scheduling of meetings. Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. The Community Gaming Development Corporation has a Board of Directors meeting this Wednesday, September 25th at 5:30 p.m. here at Town Hall.
Councillor Noyes.
Yes, there's an accessibility committee meeting tomorrow, the 24th at 5 p.m. There's also on October 3rd, there's a planning development meeting at 9 a.m. And on October 2nd, there's a senior advisory committee meeting at 9.
So the Accessibility Advisory Committee meets here, and the Public Works Committee, Planning and Development Services meets here on October the 3rd. And the time on that again? And the Seniors Advisory Committee meets at Douglas Heights, and that's on the 2nd. Councillor Zanko, did you have a meeting? Councillor Lubberts, you have an infrastructure services subcommittee meeting this week?
Yeah, Wednesday, 6 o'clock, conference room 3, I believe.
What time did you say?
Oh, I'm sorry, 6 o'clock. I said 6 o'clock.
You said 6.
I was wrong.
I think it was 5.
5 o'clock, yeah.
You
can come at 6, but we'll be gone.
Madam Clerk, make a note. Not only did he made a mistake, but he acknowledged it.
Yeah, I at least I admit to my mistakes, Mayor Redekop.
You do now. You do now. Okay, any other meetings, Councillor Butler?
Thank you. Next Monday at 9:30 a.m., we have an Affordable Housing Committee meeting here at Town Council in Committee Room number 3.
Day is next Monday, the 30th. Thank you. Any other meetings? Then, isn't that surprising? Councillor Dubanow, you have the last resolution.
Yeah, I always seem to. Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Zanko, that council adjourns at 7:48 p.m. to reconvene into a regular meeting of council on October 21st, 2019.
All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you.